Yeah, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that's one of the things that we've been saying a lot inside the company.
At present moment, where does a majority of Magic Eden's revenue come from?
Actually, 2024 actually has been our best year ever. Oh man, that's a curveball.
Hey everybody, it's Andre Bagansky from Decrypt and GM. Welcome back to a podcast interview. I've got none other than Jack Liu, the CEO of Magic Eden, with me today. How's it going, Jack?
GM, yeah, doing very well. Happy Friday. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Thanks for the opportunity for us to chat.
Of course, I mean, there's plenty to talk about when it comes to the NFT market these days in the crypto space. Wanted to have a wide ranging conversation with you, touching on a bunch of different topics. So, I think the first place to start, the most natural place to start, is Magic Eden's upcoming birthday in October.
Oh, yes.
It'll be 3 years old in October. And the crypto market looks a lot different in just a short period of time. I think the biggest shift for Magic Eden is its push, obviously, towards being multi-chain instead of being just based on Solana. But one of my questions for you is, how have you changed since the launch of Magic Eden?
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. What an amazing question. It was really funny. We just had our all hands earlier this week, and I was mentioning our 3-year birthday as well. And I was just thinking, yeah, just stepping back, it's our 3-year birthday, but it feels like 3 decades. Like we went from a baby to like effectively a middle-aged adult and kind of come into our own. Yeah, to your question of like, how have we changed? I think absolutely 3 years ago, about this time 3 years ago, we were basically like a 4-person team trying to find product market fit. And I think my co-founders were learning like Rust for the first time. They were like learning Solana and all of this. And I still remember that's at that time, we didn't even have like a front end developer on our team. So we bought the front end of Magic Eden as a WordPress theme. Like we searched NFT marketplace on WordPress, found this theme, and then we plugged that back into it. But yeah, 3 years on, I think we're very different, right? As a company and as a business. On the NFT side, we've become like multi-chain. We actually have really good traction across all of the chains that we're on, whether that's on Sol, like our Origin chain, whether that's on Bitcoin, also on EVM. We've got a lot of traction, especially with some of our minting products called Mint Terminal that we launched recently. Beyond that, actually, we've also launched a lot of use cases outside of NFTs as well. So very, very proud to launch our wallet and our mobile app, which allows to tap into non-NFT use cases like token trading. We also launched like Bitcoin fungibles, which is runes earlier this year. And currently like fungible token swaps is about 10% of our revenue right now. So we actually are making some inroads there. So all in all, I think it's been a wild ride for 3 years, and very, very proud of where we come.
I want to dig into Mint Terminal with you later, because it definitely seems exciting as far as like a pumped up, fun competitor almost, but kind of not really from a technical perspective. And when it comes to the launch of Runes, your guys' expansion into there, I think did mark a shift for me where it was like, okay, these are fungible tokens. That's a little bit closer to an exchange than just a marketplace for digital art. One of the key questions that I wanted to ask you is, what are some lessons that you've learned when it comes to managing a crypto startup specifically, and like what is required from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, where do I start? Like a lot of learnings for sure, and a lot of learnings just from trying one thing not working and then figuring out what's the right approach. Maybe a few things like that's really top of mind that I think close and dear to my heart. Like I think one thing is, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that's one of the things that we've been saying a lot inside the company. It seems very counterintuitive because when, crypto is still very much like a startup oriented space. A lot of companies are looking for 0 to 1, like hits, right? Trying to find product market fit. But where this Web3 dApp that's going through like scaling stage, we have a few use cases that could fit that's going to scale. And we have some products that's still searching for 0 to 1. One of the things like that gave me this lesson around culture eats strategy for breakfast is, as of today, I'm very proud of where we are in terms of we're 100 plus person team, but we execute very fast and we execute with high conviction. But it wasn't always like that. I actually remember maybe 18 months ago, we were still around 100 people, but we definitely ran into scaling challenges. We couldn't execute that same like ferocity and velocity as we had before. And we tried a lot of things, but things didn't land. Within the company, we did this like months long introspection of like why that is. And we realized that actually when we were like a 10, 20 person team, we had that cultural glue of like how to execute, and the founders were very, very involved. But a lot of that glue was not cleanly articulated. Like we didn't cleanly articulate what do we stand for, what kind of behaviors do we want as a team. So then we actually went and did a whole bunch of work, like articulating what are our cultural value, what's the norms, how do we work together as a team. And then that actually led to all of the results that we see like this year, where we launched so many new products and a lot of them have been really good hits. So that actually like gave me this huge lesson. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. And especially as companies reaches our stage and we scale, this glue of like, what is the operating system that helps the team execute together, row in one direction, go fast, go with high conviction? That takes a lot of work, takes a lot of thinking work, and takes a lot of effort from leadership. That's, I think, one of my biggest learnings to date. Yeah.
I think that's a very pertinent to the crypto space where the meta seems to change week to week. One minute it's hamster races, the next seconds it's runes, and then, obviously like the meme coin craze this year has been something that has really captivated people's attention, it seems. Being an NFT marketplace overall, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can slice and dice the market. You can look at like the floor price of, say, CryptoPunks as an indicator for the market's overall health. You can look at unique active users and you can look at floor prices. But I'm curious, like, what do you think are the most important metrics that you use for assessing the overall health of the NFT market?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. Maybe I'll start broad and then I'll answer your question specifically. At a like really broad thought level, Magic Eden, like our mission is, the way that we articulate our mission statement is that how do we make digital ownership universal? And what this means to us is how do we onboard hundreds of millions, billions of people into the on-chain economy, right? And all of these use cases, whether it's NFTs, whether it's wallet, whether it's tokens, whether it's other things, they are just use cases and tools for us to onboard those users into and fulfill our vision. And for us, then NFTs sits in a very special place and sits in a very special use case for us, because we try to understand like fundamentally what is this technology about? Not like art trading, not floor prices. We try to understand fundamentally why should this piece of technology exist in the arc of like human history, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do think about, okay, on-chain economies should exist because we can already see that in our eyes. We see DeFi and all of this, right? And there's more bridges, more ways for things to come on-chain. But as we look around the real world, the world that we still live in today, more things are non-fungible than they are fungible. Once we find things get put on chain, very interesting, magical things can happen, whether it's like markets can form, whether financialization can happen, or whether like these new products and new composability can happen as well. So that's like the broader lens in which we look at NFTs. And then to answer your question specifically of how I think about health in the market, what we really think about as a company is how do we grow users and then how do we grow revenue? So therefore, volume, floor price, those are just tools or like means to achieve that. So for us, I'll give you an example. Why do we spend so much effort to invest in building our own wallet and building a mobile app? Well, one of the reasons we thought like, the dream of NFTs was we can expand this into ticketing, we can expand this into music. But there's no point for us to build those use cases out if we have to force, a Coachella concert goer to then go download Phantom and MetaMask and like learn what's going on and then come back to Magic Eden. That flow is just too complex. But for us, once we invest and build those rails and make that user experience seamless, then we can then work on like the other use cases to make NFTs amazing and onboard more users. So that is the way that we then assess the health of the market. Mm-hmm. Then we can onboard more users, find ways to, of course, monetize those users so that, we can run a business. But that's kind of like our lens to a question like that.
And, at present moment, where does a majority of Magic Eden's revenue come from?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So today would be, I would say like NFTs is probably around 80%, right? And I was mentioned before, then we have like token, the fungible side, which is also growing. And then on the NFT side, I'm pretty happy to see that it's very well diversified. It's pretty diversified across chains. No chain really has more than, I would say, like 25, 30%. It's also like nicely spread between like the secondary market and then the primary market, like the minting market as well. So
I think along the lines of taking a multi-chain approach, I think people pretty well understand at this point that like Magic Eden became the leading NFT marketplace by taking a multi-chain approach. Still, like if you look at sort of the broad NFT market, monthly volumes are down quite a bit. At their peak, they were 6 billion in January of 2022. And just this past month, 430 million. So like a 92% drop. And you guys mentioned Magic Eden Wallet as something that you can use almost to expand into different sort of areas. But in the most realistic way, like how is the company adapting to depressed NFT volumes?
It's a really good question. So a couple of thoughts. Actually, 2024 actually has been our best year ever. In terms of like revenue, we've reached 65, 70% of the share of revenue within the NFT market, which has been very, very healthy for us financially as a company. And then also, even in terms of volumes for Magic Eden overall, it's actually been our best year. We've had some of our like all-time highs, right? We traded, I think, like 800 million in a month in May, in Q2 last quarter. So overall for us, like this year, even though the overall market has been a bit soft, the year has been actually pretty good for Magic Eden. To your earlier point around multi-chain, what's been really good for us to see is that, yeah, we invested really hard into this multi-chain thesis. And this year is actually the year that we actually saw this play out, right? There is something there about, the question of like markets going up and down and all of this. So our basically thought around markets is this. We want to make like enduring bets on like timeless things that we think that will not change. So for us, one of the biggest timeless like concepts that we wanted to invest in was, okay, great content can live on any chain. And the user, like the user that we want to target, they value convenience and they value like trust. So if we can be the platform that provides range across all of those chains, eventually we will win. And it actually takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of like heavy technical investment to make that work. Then the other thing that why we think this is timeless is, we've been in crypto for a long time. And in general, we see this observation that you made. We share the same observations. Like markets go up and down. Metas change. There's something hot and then something goes quiet. But what we want to do at Magic Eden is to basically have a strategy that creates a better net. Like it's very hard to predict, what is going to pop off. Like a few years ago, it was like, food tokens. I don't even like DeFi, yield farming. Right now, it's like meme coins. Last year, there was a social fi. It's very, very hard to chase those kind of metas. But what we want to do is, I think for us, if we want to build great products, build something that can actually reach our mission, we have to have a level of like long-term thinking. So then what can we separate that is timeless versus something that is like potentially opportunistic? So then to your point, yes, we want to invest in multi-chain for NFTs on the bet of content and convenience. But then there's other things like wallet, like cross-chain swaps, these kind of products that we invest a lot of effort in, which we also think is timeless, right? So regardless of whatever the meta is, we will be able to capture and deliver some value for users.
I think that goes back directly to your point about culture eating strategy every day. I'm curious, like, how long did that take in order to say, like, okay, we have to launch something that Pump.Fun has? And like, what sort of traction are you seeing as a result of this tool? Whether people are engaging with it more, is it new users, or is it sort of like, your sort of diehard degens, if you will?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And thank you for bringing Mint Terminal. Well, we always have like a special place in our heart for new products. We have that like DNA where we love like things that we launched recently as well. So a few things, one is we've met the Pump.Fun founders actually. So super amazing guys. This is not like a competitor to Pump.Fun, and there's some elements of it is inspired, which we took a lot of inspiration for some things that we saw very interesting about Pump.Fun, but some parts of it is like very, very different. In that sense, it's our own use case done our own way, but of course we want to take some of the best learnings from other products that's in the market. To give some color on this, Mint Terminal for us is really an aggregator across the market, right? Whereas like Pump.Fun, there is like this really big focus on the creation of tokens, whereas we don't do that. We're not interested in that. But the thing that is very interesting for us is, of course, within the collectibles market, there is a secondary trading market where holders are buying and selling and transacting with each other. And then there is this primary market where creators can launch and then they're selling to holders for the first time. And, we had this product called Launchpad, which was a very successful product within the primary market before. But as we actually made the inspiration for this Mint Terminal is actually as we made more forays into the EVM market, we realized actually the primary market in the EVM chain space is actually a lot bigger and it's a lot more lively. So what is a product that we can do to better serve users there? So that was like the actual motivation, not really about meme coins or Pump.Fun at all. The second thing that like is interesting for us is to your point of like, who are we, what's the engagement? Is this like for hardcore DJ minters or anything, or those kind of folks? Ultimately, like the engagement has been really, really good. We were like very pleasantly surprised. But the tool to me is not something that is specifically targeted toward DJ minters. It's actually not about that. The core concept of the tool is really, we would like a place on Magic Eden where there's always fresh content. There is always like fresh, like new discoveries, new collectibles that you can discover. And that's why we want to build this tool in a way where like we aggregate the market and we can help users see everything. I think this really basically ultimately goes to like our DNA around like timelessness. We understand like minting is a use case that users want. we also understand that minting is actually kind of like a multi-chain thing. There's like great content across a lot of different chains. And if we can then provide a place where there's a lot of convenience for users to see everything, to quickly access it, you don't have to like dig up every X, profile, or dig up like some Discord channel, or like figure out what the alpha is. That is the value that we can deliver to users there and be helpful for their lives.
It does sound like a step more towards efficiency, if you will, sort of like making it a little bit more, I guess, seamless might be the right word as well. One of the interesting things about the overlap between what we saw in sort of like NFTs heydays and the rise of meme coins really is sort of like this rapidness, if you will, where people do like to just ape into these different things. From your perspective, do you see cultural overlaps between the NFT boom and what is going on right now with meme coins?
There's definitely a bunch of overlap in some of the behaviors, like online communities forming. There is kind of like internet culture, right? Like some of the early NFT communities have their own like internet culture that's developed, and meme coins also is kind of rooted in that. Our overall point is a bit like this, which is certainly we don't see NFTs and meme coins in some zero sum kind of way. That lens is basically colored from how we see our mission. Our mission of making digital ownership universal, then really it's how do we onboard more users into the space. There's a certain aspect of meme coins and NFTs where it's like very grassroots crypto native culture, right? And it's about forming communities. In that sense, there is overlap. And then there is other sense of like NFTs that will ultimately be about like high utility use cases, whether it's for games, whether it's for, a bunch of other things. Those things can proliferate and will probably be different. And that's only supported by the NFT technology itself. Likewise, for meme coins, the way that we think about it is what is like something timeless that we can also help and alleviate, like serve this market here. And the way that we actually see it is it's actually amazing to see meme coins pop off on multiple different chains, right? Like there was like this massive Sol renaissance, then it kind of popped up on Base, then it also has like this like Tron renaissance recently. And one of the things that we actually see in our wallet is then people started using our cross-chain swaps to basically bridge across these chains and access some of these opportunities. So then bring this back to some of my earlier points is this is like a very interesting use case that now like popped off and it's kind of having its moment in the sun. How can we build something timeless and serve those users better so that it's also helping our long-term mission as well to bring more users to the space and make things easy for people.
That's an interesting point where there's this idea that like crypto users, the hardcore ones, are going to want to shift between chains in order to follow where attention is, and sort of that being a signal to say, hey, maybe there's technical solutions here that can be developed that suit those users a little bit better. I want to shift gears a little bit. Obviously, one of the biggest things to happen in the NFT space recently is the fact that OpenSea divulged it had received a Wells notice, essentially signaling that the Securities and Exchange Commission could bring an enforcement action. The company's CEO said that the agency believes some NFTs are securities on the platform, and he denies it. When it comes to the regulatory treatment of NFTs at large, how do you view the potential of an SEC lawsuit against OpenSea as disruptive toward the market, or what potentially could be at stake?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It all happened very suddenly, so I feel like I don't have like super deep thoughts on this topic yet. I think maybe from a Magic Eden perspective, we've always been really happy to work with regulators, and we think we're a really great actor in the ecosystem. So, we welcome engagement in any kind of way. I think like my overall thoughts on regulatory landscape is this, which is that I think all players in the system, we welcome clarity, right? And we welcome clarity. And I think that it's unfortunate right now that the way that the regulatory landscape works is that there's there is lack of clarity, and it's done through enforcement. And in that sense, to the extent that this incident is going to create more clarity in the space, I welcome that. And to the extent that, it's being done in this like fairly ad hoc and enforcement based way against one of the, like, I would say pioneers in the, in the market, I think that's very challenging, right? And that's net negative. But overall, I think that, what we as Magic Eden, what we really pride on is let's deliver value to our users. Let's also build a trusted brand, and let's be really good actors. And to the extent that, regulators want to engage, we're more than happy to. We've always been good faith actors in the system.
A natural question would be to ask, has Magic Eden received a Wells notice itself?
No.
One of the reasons why it's important to ask is because when Binance and Coinbase got SEC lawsuits or were sued by the SEC last year, you saw platforms adjust very quickly to those lawsuits. One of them that comes to mind is Robinhood, which disabled trading for Solana and other cryptocurrencies that were presented as securities that trade on Binance and Coinbase in their respective lawsuits. If the SEC came out and said something like the Bored Ape Yacht Club is a security, how likely would Magic Eden be to disable trading for something like that or change its services in response to that lawsuit?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the general principle for us is we want to be good actors and be compliant in the ecosystem, right? I think it's like for these kind of playing crypto where the lack of regulatory clarity basically comes with the territory, and it may not be like super helpful to opine like on hypothetical things in the future because a lot of these things rest on nuances and rest on the factual circumstances of the case. But I think the underlying principle for us is we want to be good actors and we want to be compliant actors in the ecosystem.
You've seen proactive lawsuits to sort of get that regulatory clarity from the Securities and Exchange Commission. And, digital art being something entirely different in and of itself is what people are sort of saying within the industry as a defense to that or something along those lines. In terms of regulation in the United States, you see it on the back burner on Capitol Hill. And it'll be interesting to see how that regulatory picture evolves with the coming election in terms of the choice between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. One of the things might be a silly question, but if you look at CryptoPunks, they're kind of like the anchor for the NFT market, biggest sort of collection by market cap. At the same time, you do have the prospect of crypto-friendly regulation and also like NFTs from the former president. In your opinion, if you had to choose between which is more important to the NFT market right now, Donald Trump or CryptoPunks?
Oh man, that's a curveball. Yeah. I don't know. I really don't. Well, one is we have no partisan takes in the sense of like politics. We welcome like clarity in general, and that can come in any form, right? So we don't have any partisan takes there. So it's kind of difficult for me to answer a question where Donald Trump is part of the question.
Do you own any Trump cards?
I don't.
That
Yeah.
was one thing I wanted to ask you.
I was gonna say it does look like high utility though. A lot of benefits attached to it.
It was a sort of segue, if you will, into the question of like, what is your most coveted NFT at this point that you have?
Okay, so to be honest, my first NFT was a Rory. So it's like a very, very OG Solana NFT collection. Personally know the founders very well as well. They're developing a game. Yeah, and they also I actually love their story in the sense of they also had a lot of ups and downs. So they had like massive amounts of hype. Then, they were like kind of somewhat impacted by FTX going down. And to me, it was one of those things that now it's like there are many other collections that's like, I don't know, maybe it has more coveted attention in some sense, but this collection always has a special and dear place in my heart because one, it was my first, NFT, and two, being a founder myself, I love this founder story, of like resilience and grit of like, going through ups and downs but still pushing forward. So that's kind of why it always has that special sense for me.
The sentimental value that people attach to their NFTs is definitely something I encounter quite a bit in the industry, where it's like, the price of it may be down, but at the same time, for some people, that's not what they really care about. It could be a memory, it could be a representation, it could be something that signifies culture. You mentioned gaming in that sentence there, or that statement. I'm curious about your thoughts on NFTs in the gaming space, because I don't get the impression as somebody who watches the market that it really has taken off yet. But I know it's something that founders really are looking at as sort of like a next stage, if you will, or a space that digital assets could break into.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our perspective on this is always take a long-term view, right? And one of the things that we also say, like it's kind of like a cultish thing that we say within the company is like nothing is ever as bad as it seems, and nothing is ever as good as it seems. So which is always about thinking long-term and taking a level-headed view. And all of that I think apply to many cases, whether it's to gaming or otherwise. Like we can only see signals of today, but as we know in crypto, like things can pop off and then things can drop off, but really we should make bets on timeless, long macro trends. And why we are like in general pretty interested in this category is number one, I think the stars are really aligned, both from a gaming industry perspective, but also from a crypto perspective. So gaming industry perspective, it's pretty tough to make a game. There's a red ocean. a lot of competition, a lot of the distribution channels like the app stores, make it pretty tough for games as well. Therefore, like gaming developers, they are looking for, more places of opportunity, more edge. From a creator perspective, they're highly, highly competent, highly technical teams who can push out really good products. And then from the more like the crypto side, I'm very bullish and just, I feel like the stars are aligning in that sense, which is, a few years ago, we were also talking about gaming. We were also talking about, consumer use cases. But at that time, it felt the technology was still pretty far away. Whether it was the chain itself is not fast enough. Gas is too expensive. The wallets are too complicated. The UX is too complex. The overall mainstream recognition of crypto is too esoteric. But if we think about, today, August 2024, and I think about how much progress we as an industry have made against those points, it's all coming alive. And that actually makes me more bullish and more optimistic than anything, right? Like we have fast infrastructure. So now more like consumer dApp developers like Magic Eden, we can more focus on end user use cases. We have great wallet technology that makes things more seamless for users. We now have BTC ETF, ETH ETF. Crypto is part of the political conversation. It has reached mainstream recognition. Like all of these things are actually going to create that inflection point for more and more consumer use cases to come onto crypto and NFTs. And that's why in general, we're still very, very bullish and very optimistic on gaming as well.
Jack, when I heard you sort of say that, I didn't hear regulation as being something that is aligning with those stars. And I do find it fascinating, right? Because I think people might say that in order for NFTs to really hit that consumer sort of adoption that people are looking for, like you would need the regulatory picture to be a part of that. I mean, you look at companies that move fast in this space, like DraftKings. DraftKings is encountering issues, encountering legal hurdles when it comes to the sort of NFT fantasy sports experience that it put out into the world. Do you think that is also an essential part of the stars aligning, which is regulatory clarity?
I think short answer is yes, definitely. Like more regulatory clarity is going to make it easier for folks to develop use cases. I think the nuanced take is that regulatory clarity also comes in like a multi-jurisdictional sense as well, right? There are some jurisdictions where it's clear, in the US, it's less clear, it's more ambiguous. And probably my more nuanced take is that the history of crypto has been, everything has moved in parallel. Like people have developed in places where there's more clarity, more safety developed use cases, and those things have taken off. And then some of the bigger markets takes a bit more time to develop clarity and things. But then they also, the bigger markets that take time to develop regulatory clarity, they look at the other markets where there is use cases to form their opinion about the space. So everything basically moves in parallel. And it's kind of like the ecosystem taking a step forward at the same time.
I am totally guilty of asking, as an American, a US market-centric question there. So I apologize for that.
No.
One of the things I'm curious about that's going on right now with Magic Eden as a company, but also as its sort of parallel foundation, is the launch of the Magic Eden token. And one of the questions there, the rebrand and the establishment of the foundation itself, like, can you walk me through how the foundation was like created and sort of the steps it's taken to become a separate entity from Magic Eden, the company?
Right. So I can't really comment on the foundation since it's a separate entity and it was a separate entity, an independent entity from day one. But from a Magic Eden side, we're excited to adopt the ME token, right? And the ME token is administered by the foundation. For us, why we're excited about this overall is more about, hey, actually highlighting some of the new products that we want to help out make our users' life easier. So for example, one of the key angles for us in the adoption of this token is to make sure that the token claim happens within the Magic Eden wallet. And this is like the exclusive place to make that happen. And as I already shared with you previously, like this product, the wallet product, is pretty key for us in terms of actually helping us reach new audiences, probably unlocking new use cases for us. And also we already have seen some pretty good traction, pretty promising traction in some of the use cases like token swaps and so on within the wallet itself. So overall, this is actually a really great way for us to highlight some of the new use cases that we want to share with our user base to make it more seamless for them to use use cases across chains and so on and so forth. And, that's why overall we're pretty excited about this.
I'm curious about, like, it's totally understandable if you can't comment, but the idea of changing the token from NFT to ME in terms of its ticker name, the foundation's director sort of talked about the reason behind that was sort of Magic Eden's push at broader sort of like looking beyond NFTs, aside from in-app swaps, like what other areas could Magic Eden sort of expand into within the next year, say?
I'll speak from the Magic Eden perspective. I think some of the rebrand stuff is better left for the foundation. Magic Eden, it kind of echoes back to a bunch of the things that we already talked about, which is one, if we anchor ourselves on the mission of bringing digital ownership making digital ownership universal, there's a couple of things that we think is interesting, right, to address that. The first one is we have this concept of like rails versus use cases. Like how can we make the rails of experiencing crypto easier? And that actually is something that I think is a deep industry-wide issue. We've been talking about how to make crypto and Web3 easier for, I don't know, like 10 years, right? Like when it was just Bitcoin, we felt like, oh, this is like pretty complicated to experience. But 10 years on, if you look at trying to experience Web3, it is still a heavily fragmented and complex space with all of its like jargon and slang and so on. So one of the things that we're really interested in is actually like creating a much more seamless onboarding experience between the website and the mobile app and the wallet and the marketplace all together. And that is like leveraging some of the new technologies that you can see in the market, which is like passkeys, using Touch ID, all of these kind of things. And for me, like if we can create those rails and make that very seamless, that actually then unlocks more use cases. So I'll give you an example. We've all been talking about the dream of having NFTs become like tickets, or having NFTs become music, or having NFTs become this and that. But those kind of use cases have had a rough time trying to scale. And I would posit that those use cases have had a rough time to scale because the onboarding is so complicated. The rails is so broken. But if we can actually leverage some of the latest frontier technologies that we can see in the space, imagine you come to Magic Eden, you don't even need a wallet. You use your Touch ID on, something to create an account. And then later on, you go download our mobile app, go to a ticketing venue, and then, you can have your pull app. Then you can also access your funds, all of this at the same time. All of that, I think, is actually the future we want to build to, but we want to leverage some of the latest technologies to get there.
And rounding those corners.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The second thing that, is pretty interesting for us is to the point previously of how do we build a better net and how do we have more timelessness in our strategy? And we all know that crypto has these new metas, like this thing has popped up, this other thing has popped up, and this other thing has popped up. So one of the things that, as we're thinking about is, we have Ruins, which is one foray for us to go into token trading, which has been pretty successful. Then we have cross-chain swaps, which is another foray into token trading, which is also pretty successful. How do we then actually create more coherency around these experiences, both within the mobile app, which is the wallet, and then on the website experience as well? So one of the things that we are thinking about is, maybe there is a way for us to serve the token trading use case as well. That doesn't mean for us retrenching from NFTs. We are very bullish on NFTs and we want to keep our investment and maintain a market leader in that use case. But for us, if we can basically help serve our users who are already doing this kind of activity, and we have some very unique ways to serve them based on like cross-chain bridging, based on like some of our strength in Bitcoin, that actually is also going to help us deliver better experiences to our users and also, of course, help them build a stronger relationship with Magic Eden as well. So yeah, that's probably some of the color that, we're thinking about as we're broadening our ambitions.
I think that's a fantastic sort of look at the way Magic Eden is sort of sitting in the present moment and looking, towards the future. I guess one perfect question to end it on: what is going to help Magic Eden keep its leading market share of the NFT space for the future?
It's a really good question. So I think I have like 3 pillars of our thesis. And I think today, one of the pillars has really played out very well. We're going to put more energy into that. And then the other 2, I think, is also going to play really well, but we're like building the foundation to that. I think the first pillar you've already mentioned, which is being multi-chain, right? And it takes a lot of work to become multi-chain, but in 2024, we can see that, hey, this thesis really, really works. And it took us a long time to get here, but it helped us gain and maintain the leadership position that we have today. I think the second pillar is really about simplicity, And this is to the point of like avoiding the noise that's in crypto and having conviction on something long-term. What we deeply believe in Magic Eden is, crypto is too complex. Actually, most of the noise that we hear in crypto is actually making crypto even more complicated, like more jargon. Oh man, like all these new concepts. Even I work in crypto, I don't understand. I don't fully understand what restaking does. I don't fully understand what data availability is, like all of these kind of things. But how can we, as we build a great consumer experience, how can we keep it simple? And then how can we then use that to onboard more players into the space? I would say that in bear markets especially, It's hard. It's hard to fight that temptation to then serve only power users, build like the latest tools that have a lot of edge, but it's a little esoteric. So that's the second pillar around simplicity. And simplicity is not just in the marketplace. Simplicity in everything we do, simplicity in the wallet, simplicity in mint terminals, simplicity in token swaps, all of these kind of things. And how do we pervade that? The last pillar, I think you're seeing the seeds of it right now. And I think this is actually going to play out really, really well for us, is multi-layer, multi-chain. And what I mean by that is we have one use case that's clearly multi-chain that was very successful, which is multi-chain NFTs. I also believe that we can make multi-chain minting really, really successful. I also believe that we can make multi-chain wallet really successful. Download the Magic Eden mobile app. One click, it connects to all chains at the same time. It swaps all the tokens instantly. You don't have to think about fiddling around with all the different knobs to change chains, to like swap your tokens. Everything is seamless. And as we build multi-chain use cases across layers, then that makes this user experience very, very seamless, and it offers the kind of convenience that I think we've all been talking about in crypto. And it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes I think a lot of conviction to do it this way. But I actually have deep belief that this is the path. This is the path of how to truly onboard more users into crypto and truly let more people experience the power of Web3.
That is an amazing point to end it on right there. As somebody who manages multiple wallets, it can become a headache. I want to say thank you, Jack, for taking some time out of your day, and it'll be exciting to see how Magic Eden progresses for the future throughout the year and sort of the rollout of ME and the wallet. Thank you again for coming on, and I hope to talk again with you soon.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for the chat, Andre.
Awesome. Thank you.